is Ashley Sloan. I have ARH rabbits, and I've been raising Flemish since 2004. Between me and my mom, we currently have all 7 varieties in the barn. This is our homegrown 6'8" doe, Beth. And she just turned 6'8", so she's still on that younger side. So we're going to talk about evaluating and what you want to look for in a show prospect Flemish Giant. These guys, you want them to have that nice curvature of the skull. You want them to be wide between their eyes. You don't want a snipey muzzle. She is a doe, so it is allowed to have more of a feminine look. The bucks, you want to have that big, bold head. You want them to have a good, strong ear base. They need to be able to hold them ears up. Their ears need to be a minimum of 5 3/4 inches. So you need a strong base to be able to support all of that length. They also need to have good substance to their ear. You don't want thin ears. You don't want them flopping around. This doe could use just a little bit more substance to open those ears up. She is folded just a tad. So I'd like to see them just a little bit more open whenever she holds them. They are carried erect. Their body type is mandolin. So you want to see that shoulder, and like your commercial breeds, you want to see their shoulder. Their rise should start at the back of their shoulder. And that's what makes them different than a giant chinchilla, where the rise starts in the middle on the giant chins. These guys start at the back of that shoulder. So whenever I'm teaching new exhibitors or young exhibitors, I always have them actually feel that spine between the shoulder blades. Where those shoulder blades end, you want to feel that rise start to go up. You don't want to dip or a break, and I see that's very common. Behind that shoulder, you almost see a dip like somebody has a girth or a gum band around them. You want that shoulder to taper into the ribs with a good wide rib spread. So you don't want them to be slab-sided where their ribs are straight and parallel. You want to have that nice taper. The ribs get wider as you go back. The rise needs to go up over that midsection. They peak at the top of the hips. When you line them up properly, their highest point should be with their toes. You don't want them overstretched to show the depth. You don't want to put them out to where their toes are clear back. Give them a slight touch so that their heels are lined up and their toes are lined up with their hips. Balance is the most important thing on these guys. It's not all about the size. You want a very well balanced animal. So you want their depth and their width to match. One of the biggest mistakes I see is exhibitors only evaluating a rabbit from the side profile. So from the side profile, they'll have that nice depth. But if you don't get back and look at them from behind, you're not going to see that roundness and the evenness of that hind quarter. You want a well-filled loin, and this is one thing I look at even whenever they're young, is the width of that loin at the top. If they're narrow up there, that's not going to come in. It's going to grow in and fill in a little bit, but you want that to be full, just as those hips are full. And another way to notice that is by looking at the hind feet. When you flip them over, you want these hind feet to be as parallel as possible. You don't want them to be turned in or turned out. If they're turned in, that's going to cause them to be narrow and pinched from the top to that lower hind quarter. You want them to be parallel and wide set. If those bottom feet are narrow or they're turned in, that's going to affect everything up here. They'll be narrow, they'll be undercut, they'll be pinched in that lower hind quarter. Everything starts on the base. The hind quarter, you want them to be well-rounded. So I also raise French laps, so I always say that I want a Flemish hind quarter to look like a French lap if I put their head right here. I want it to be round like a basketball in every direction I look. Bone is important on these guys. Being a blue, she is a little bit finer in bone, so this is what I would like to improve on her, is I would like to see more bone density. That can be seen on their front legs. She is a little bit thinner in bone. Another way to evaluate that hind quarter is if you pick them up and sit them on a table where those feet sit. So whether they're wide set or their narrow mane. I like to see them sit their feet down nice and wide. Tracking is also important on the Flemish Giant. A lot of people think that only goes with the running breeds, but seeing how a rabbit moves down the table evaluates their ankles and can also evaluate that hind quarter. I'm not sure if she'll run for us or not. So you want that hind foot to stay straight. You want them to be powerful off of that hind quarter. You want them feet to track parallel with each other. And on the front end, you don't want to see a lot of bend in that ankle. So again, that goes with that bone density. I'd like to see her improve that. But she does track straight and powerful off that hind quarter. So the biggest things that I would tell beginners if you're looking at evaluating a Flemish Giant is that shoulder. You don't want that break in that shoulder. You want that round, well-filled hind quarter with those wide-set legs. Those are the two biggest things that as a young rabbit, they're not going to grow out of if they have any of those faults.
How important is size on them?
Size is important, but they have to be balanced. If you have a big, massive, usually a doe, up here on the table, they'll get unproportionate, where they'll have a long shoulder or a long, narrow midsection. They do have a minimum body length, which I did forget to mention. So their minimum body length as a senior needs to be 20 inches when properly posed, from their nose to their tail. This doe, these are about 10 inches, so if we set her up, I'd say she's probably about 17 or 18 inches right now, and she's not quite 7 months old, so she's still got time to grow. The short, choppy bodies are coming a little bit more popular on the show tables. It's not desirable. You don't want them to be short coupled. What else did I miss?
I want to get some.
Good morning, good morning. Start letting everybody know who the judges will be. Al Gerhardt's going to do the Cheshire Giants today.